Your furnace is pricey, unreliable, and still leaves you with cold feet. Yet somehow, medieval folks managed to stay warm without any of it. These 15 budget-friendly medieval heating tricks kept them toasty with minimal effort. They worked back then, and they still work today. No risk, no stress. Just smart, simple ways to keep the chill away. And the first trick? Insulating with straw. Straw was the underappreciated hero of medieval winters. Long before foam sprays and fiberglass rolls, people turned to what was plentiful: leftover plant stalks. Builders crammed straw into wall gaps beneath floors and under roof beams. The air trapped in each hollow stem formed tiny pockets of warmth. More pockets meant more heat, so in a way, medieval homes were built on strawsome insulation. Surprisingly, this technique worked well. Experiments on reconstructed medieval homes showed that straw-filled walls reduced heat loss by up to 30% compared to plain timber. That kind of difference meant enduring the brutal cold. Straw wasn't just stuffed into walls either. People tucked it into their clothing. The less fortunate would layer straw under their garments to hold in heat. Think less runway, more scarecrow, but a scarecrow that wasn't shivering. Crafty folks even sandwiched straw between fabric layers to make warm mattresses and padded seats. This helped block the chill rising from stone floors and wooden benches. Swapping out old, damp straw became part of the autumn routine. Forget cozy sweaters and cinnamon-scented candles. Fall prep used to mean jamming plant matter into every crack before the frost arrived. Still, straw alone didn't do all the work. Medieval people were inventive when it came to warmth. Why try to heat an entire space when you can just heat yourself? Unlike today's comfort culture, medieval life was all about body-focused warmth. Stay warm, not the room. That was the motto. Layering was their best defense. It started with linen-based layers to trap heat against the skin. Then came woolen tunics and leggings topped with dense wool or fur outerwear. Sheep were basically mobile heaters. One sheep's wool could become a cloak warm enough to brave a snowstorm. Tests on recreated medieval cloaks proved they retained warmth even when soaked. Perfect for soggy, freezing days. Fur wasn't only for the elite. Everyday folks used sheepskin, rabbit fur, or whatever animals were nearby. Sustainability, medieval style, meant turning leftovers into wardrobe staples. And gloves? Tied together with strings through your sleeves, because if you lost one, there was no store to replace it, and frostbite was no joke. It was like the ancient version of mom's mitten clips, only way more essential. The most astonishing part? These medieval clothing systems functioned entirely without electricity or fuel. While we scramble at the first flicker of a power outage, medieval folks simply reached for another layer and went on with their lives. Their clothing didn't just keep them warm during the day. It kept the chill at bay during long, cold nights too. But when the night air bit a little too hard, they had a backup plan to warm things up. Enter the bed warmer, a clever yet slightly risky device that blended medieval ingenuity with a hint of danger. Think of it as the original heated blanket minus the plug and safety certifications. These came in two main types: metal or ceramic heat trapping containers. Their mission? Make slipping into bed feel less like plunging into an icy grave and more like something you could sleep through. Picture a shallow metal pan filled with glowing coals, gingerly slid between the sheets. It turned freezing bedding into something halfway tolerable. In wealthier homes, entire job roles revolved around this task. Servants whose only responsibility was preheating beds. Career goals in the Middle Ages apparently included professional bed warmer. But this process required a delicate touch. Not enough heat, and you were shivering till dawn. Too much, and suddenly your feather mattress was ablaze. These bed warmers weren't just a luxury. They were tools for survival. Slipped carefully between the blankets, they created cozy heat pockets that could keep hypothermia at bay in the dead of winter. Wealthier households often had more refined versions, brass or copper models that didn't just radiate heat effectively, but looked stylish doing it. These shimmering metal devices served both form and function, doubling as status symbols and comfort tools. If you had a polished bed warmer, you weren't just surviving winter, you were doing it with flair. Of course, the risk was ever present. A single misstep and your cozy retreat turned into an impromptu bonfire. Navigating nighttime warmth required serious awareness. a skill modern electric blanket users never really have to think about. But once the warmth was safely secured, it was time to relax and enjoy another layer of medieval brilliance. Tapestries weren't just wall bling for nobles flaunting their riches. These woven wonders were medieval insulation in disguise, functional decor that could make any room feel less like a stone cavern and more like a livable space. They were more than pretty pictures. They were part of the strategy for staying warm through punishing winters. Thick, decorative fabric became a vital weapon in the war against cold. Nobles hung massive textile panels across stone walls to block icy drafts and slow heat loss. And while it may seem like mere decoration, the science behind it was surprisingly sound. These layers created a thermal buffer, stopping frigid air from creeping through porous stone walls. Turns out they weren't just aesthetically pleasing, they were effective. Modern testing on similar hangings shows they could reduce heat loss by up to 25%. That's not just cozy, that's efficient. Material made a difference. Wool, heavy linen, and tightly woven cloth worked best. These created small warm zones inside rooms, a microclimate of comfort, all thanks to a bit of textile and tactical thinking. Some affluent households took the idea of tapestries and cranked it up to 11. Instead of hanging a few here and there, they lined entire rooms with these massive fabric panels, transforming cold, echoing chambers into warm, inviting retreats. It was like wrapping your room in a luxurious, oversized sweater that also happened to narrate a grand adventure. The designs weren't just for show. Many depicted epic battles, mythological sagas, or detailed hunting scenes. Staying warm came with a side of storytelling. But warmth wasn't the only perk. Tapestries also muffled sound, softening the harsh acoustics of stone halls. They added a sense of privacy too, which was a rare commodity in households where shared spaces were the norm. These multitasking textiles showed that medieval folks didn't just endure the cold, they outsmarted it. And their next method? It proved that creativity didn't stop at fabric. Before central heating or even stoves were a thing, people got crafty with what they had: rocks. That's right, stones became their secret weapon. While ancient Romans had hypocausts, medieval dwellers went with a low-tech but surprisingly effective solution. They turned ordinary rocks into radiant little heat batteries, warming their homes without a single wire or flame after the fire had died down. Here's how it worked. Large stones were placed close to roaring hearths, soaking in the heat like thermal sponges. Once hot enough, they were moved to beds or benches to radiate warmth through the night. Simple in theory, brilliant in practice. These DIY heating units kept people comfortable in the depths of winter, creating hot spots where it mattered most, without the risk of a blown fuse or scorched circuit. And not just any rock would do. People learned which stones held heat best. Granite and dense limestone were favorites. Some families even had prized heating rocks they reused every winter. Owning the perfect heat-retaining stone, that was the medieval version of having the latest smart thermostat. They treated these chunks of earth like prized tech, storing and handling them with care. This method wasn't just clever, it hinted at a profound understanding of heat transfer, well before science gave it a name. Generations of trial and error led to a near-intuitive grasp of thermodynamics. It was efficient, effective, and entirely sustainable. But if there was one feature that defined warmth in medieval homes more than any other, it was something far more central. The true heart of any medieval home wasn't just emotional, it was physical. The fireplace was more than a place to cook meals or gather. It was the beating heart of survival. In the depths of winter, it transformed stone shelters into habitable spaces. It was the glow, the crackle, and the heat that made life in a cold world bearable. Open hearths began as basic fire pits in the center of one-room dwellings, where smoke drifted through holes in the roof. Over time, designs evolved. Fireplaces shifted to the walls and chimneys were added, revolutionizing indoor heating. These chimney systems did more than just direct smoke out. They pulled it upward efficiently, while allowing heat to radiate throughout the room. Wealthy households took it further, installing multiple fireplaces in key areas to create warm zones. Forget modern ducts. Medieval HVAC was all about having the fire exactly where you needed it. Safety standards, of course, were a bit different. There were no carbon monoxide alarms or handy warning systems. Your clue that something was wrong? burning eyes, uncontrollable coughing, and maybe a ceiling darkened with soot. In other words, medieval chimney maintenance came with direct smoky feedback. Fireplaces didn't just warm rooms, they inspired innovation. Medieval folks didn't sit around shivering on cold chairs. They found ways to turn their very furniture into cozy heating devices. Their creativity turned everyday seating into something modern designers would envy. Heated furniture wasn't a luxury. It was a functional art form that changed the game during winter's chill. Heated seating became a masterstroke of comfort engineering. Stone benches and carved chairs weren't just decorative, they were tools for trapping and radiating warmth. Artisans designed hollows and cavities within these seats to house hot stones or glowing embers. Sit down, and you'd feel warmth gently rising up. Not just furniture, but a thermal hug disguised as a bench. These clever creations were more than just cozy spots. Strategically placed near fireplaces, they soaked up heat and slowly released it for hours. In wealthier homes, some chairs even had hidden metal compartments beneath wooden surfaces, circulating warmth like an early version of the heated seats found in today's cars. Only these were handcrafted and fireplace-powered. Material mattered too. Stone was ideal for slow, steady heat. Wood paired with metal warmed up quickly and efficiently. Some designs layered materials for optimal heat control. Slow release from stone, fast delivery from metal. The results were simple, effective, and smartly engineered. Comfort aside, these seats were essential. In an age when hypothermia could sneak in during a quiet meal or late-night gathering, heated furniture made survival feel like luxury. People could cook, converse, and carry on daily life without the sting of cold settling into their bones. Next up was one of the warmest, most social spots in the home, the medieval kitchen. But these weren't just for cooking. Kitchens were the heartbeat of the house, pulling double duty as heat sources and gathering places. You could say they were the original open-concept living spaces, where warmth, food, and family life all came together. Their layout wasn't accidental. Kitchens were placed to share their heat with nearby rooms, using the constant burn of cooking fires as a passive heating system. Massive hearths roared day and night, keeping bread baking and people warm. These spaces weren't just practical, they were genius, a natural fusion of necessity and comfort. Kitchens were often built close to living areas, allowing heat to flow naturally throughout the home. Long before open-concept design became trendy, some medieval homes embraced a layout that let warmth drift from room to room. The act of cooking itself doubled as a reliable heating method. Baking bread, in particular, was a powerhouse of heat production. Once the loaves were pulled from the oven, the large stone chambers continued to radiate warmth for hours, turning kitchens into natural heat hubs. Slow-cooking meals like stews and roasts required long-burning fires, which meant consistent heat was a daily byproduct of meal prep. Different dishes, different benefits. Baking filled rooms with a blast of heat, while roasting offered a slow, steady temperature rise. Medieval cooks weren't just making meals, they were managing home climate systems one pot at a time. Their culinary techniques did double duty, keeping both stomachs and spaces warm. The strategic placement of kitchens wasn't random, it was essential. Families designed their homes with heating in mind, aligning sleeping and living quarters near the kitchen to take full advantage of the steady warmth. Home design met practical physics, and the result was toasty, food-scented comfort during even the harshest winters. The next method of staying warm may sound unusual, but it was one of the most effective: livestock. These weren't just sources of milk, meat, and wool. They were living space heaters on 4 legs. In the coldest regions, animals played a surprisingly central role in the medieval heating game. You might say the barnyard was the boiler room. Some houses were built with attached stables or barns, an architectural choice that made brilliant use of natural body heat. The warmth produced by cows, pigs, and sheep didn't just stay in the barn, it seeped through shared walls, warming adjacent living spaces. Imagine sleeping next to a wall warmed by a cow. Comforting, if a little fragrant. Modern research backs up the brilliance of this method. A single cow can produce enough heat to meaningfully warm a small area. That kind of warmth, spread across multiple animals, made a serious difference. Even in castles, specialized rooms like falconries were placed close to inhabited areas, using warm animal bodies as passive heat sources. It was a cozy, creative blend of agriculture and architecture. The medieval family bed wasn't just cozy, it was survival tech. Winter was brutal, and body heat was the best heater around. Forget privacy, families slept like sardines, layering fur rolls, wool blankets, and each other. Canopy beds with thick curtains acted like medieval microclimates, trapping warmth better than any fireplace could. Sleeping close was strategic. Kids in the middle, adults around them. It wasn't just snuggly, it was life-saving. Rich families had layers of furs, poor ones stacked bodies, and yes, the warmest spot was hotly contested. In medieval winter, body heat was currency, but they didn't stop there. Internal heating was a thing too. Hot drinks, mulled wine, herbal teas, warm milk were medieval central heating. Monks mastered the art of constant sipping. These drinks weren't just cozy, they were vital tools in beating the cold. Underground spaces helped too. Cellars weren't just for storage, they were thermal havens. Dug deep, they stayed warm in winter and cool in summer. Families sometimes moved downstairs when the frost hit hardest. Nature's insulation, no thermostat required. Medieval people also weaponized the landscape. Trees, hedges, and stone walls blocked icy winds. Buildings were placed smartly with screens and room dividers to trap warmth. Architecture met strategy. And when things got icy indoors, pack the room. One body equals 100 watts. 20 people. A free furnace. Feasts heated great halls. Families lived, ate, and slept in the same tight quarters. Cozy, noisy, and warm. Lastly, fireplace tech was no joke. Fire dogs and reflective firebacks bounced heat into rooms, not up chimneys. Rich folks used polished brass, the rest used iron. Either way, it turned a fire from decorative to efficient. Medieval engineering knew how to stretch a flame and a winter. And there you have it. 15 clever ways medieval folks stayed warm without a flicker of gas or a single spark of electricity. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more historical curiosities, and drop a comment with your favorite medieval heating hack. Stay warm, the old-fashioned way.